Program Advisory Committee for West End Special Education on the Plan Area. We're going to begin by going around and introducing ourselves. Douglas Moss, Director of Student Services for Mountain View School District. I'm facilitating today's meeting.
I'm Susan Bobbitt, WESELPA Youth.
Aaron Johnson, Administrative Assistant at WESELPA.
Guy Thomas, Program Specialist, West End WESELPA.
Andrew Leahy, Special Education Coordinator, Duke and Women's.
Diane White, Director over Special Ed in Ontario, Montclair.
Hayden McPhee, Area Director for County Services here in the West End, and I just need to make one announcement. I believe about 2:44 o'clock or something. So if you see me late, that's why I'm late.
Mike Blue filling in for Kelly.
Dee Boga, Altoona School District. Susan Cook, Central School District.
I'm Jeanette Sanchez, Youth Physical Activities for the West End WESELPA.
And can I just say something? Jeanette held her first committee meeting this morning, and she's been on the job for like
And members of the public, would you mind introducing yourselves, please, as well?
Sure, Christy Burchett, parent.
Shayla Kamina, daughter of a parent,
which is me, Barbara Camino. Hello, everybody. Hi.
And do we have a motion to accept the agenda for the September 19th, 2012 meeting?
Also moved. Service.
And then approval of minutes from the August 15th, 2012 PAC meeting. You've had a chance to go through those. You have a motion to approve those.
Please note that the time start is supposed to read 7:46, not 8:46. That twitched my finger.
Yeah, I was waiting for people to keep looking. I was reading, so I was like, all right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 15th, 2012? Second. Thank you. Review parking lot items from the previous meeting.
You have a copy in a green underlined parking lot document, and Barb is going to be putting anything that needs to go from the parking lot today. It's proven very effective at our CAC meetings, and we're doing it at each of our meetings to kind of record different topics that come up from the audience, or even from ourselves that might be relevant but not right on our agenda. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll come back and talk about what are the next steps, if any, that need to be taken, and who or when will be responsible for that. Okay.
Self-administration.
Yes, I'd asked when we first started if anybody had any challenges with opening up the portfolio that you all did, that except for an iPad and opening that fine, were you able to open it? So we are doing this so that if you want to do one separate document, you can just access it, and you can just click a button and print it all at once also. So I'd like your input as time goes on, if it works effectively for you or whatever, but I think it's a lot easier to find a document rather than scrolling through the whole packet. I like it.
And I do like to have it online as well, so I can save. It's easier for me to save and store the electronic versions too, so I
Yeah, yes, you can say it as one thing, but it opens everything up.
I think I brought this up before. I am not getting my blue packet before the meeting. I don't know if it's Chino's mail, but this is like the third or fourth time. I just don't have mine.
Did everybody else receive it? Because they all went out at the same time.
I it's just a Chino issue, because
Well,
I know it
don't
was
call
the
the
last
Chino,
time.
district
Okay,
and see what's going on.
Okay, thank
I'd like
you.
them to maybe selfish.
but if you're
No,
saying
I'll just
paper,
drive out.
it's no problem. If you're saying paper, but I sending me one, it's okay.
Would you like another one? I have an extra one.
If you have an extra one, it'd be great.
I also wanted to give you an update. We've had two CAC meetings, one in August and one this month. And I want to thank all of the districts for the outstanding people you put on the committee. They all are gung-ho to get moving forward, to develop some resources, provide some trainings for parents. And so I'm very pleased about that. There are a couple items that have come up in our recent meeting that you need to be aware of that are going to go to the superintendents. There was a request that they participate in the Ledge Day, the Legislative Information Sharing Day. And in the past, I've found that to be very effective and self-inspired. And the way I see that happening, most likely, our chair of that committee is Russell Percy, who is from Central District, a retired assistant superintendent. And I think it would be very appropriate for us to take the chair of the committee for the next two afternoon. And then, of course, right now, there's not a whole lot for that committee to be doing because the legislators have all gone home, the legislative session has ended. And so they are all going home to continue their efforts in their elections or whatever. I won't be back in office till January. So he and I did chat last week about probably the next step for that committee would be to meet with new legislators and inform them of where we are in special ed when they all come into office. And so we would script that very carefully and go meet with new legislators. The other one is, I think you're aware, that there had been some activity taken before I came to name a representative from the agency that would serve on the CAC. And so we're stepping backwards, going through a process to actually submit some letters out to the various agencies and reviewing the applications we received. So I just kind of wanted to give you an update that that's going with that. A couple other things I wanted to share with you. Just this afternoon, you'll find in your email boxes, I sent you some information about the out-of-home count funding, where that comes from. I received yesterday from Anita Westerholz, the sub-director for East Valley Supper, the list of which group homes are in our area and which foster homes are in our area. So just go through, and if you know of any homes that have either opened up in your area or that are close in your area, if you could forward me that information, that would be helpful. So you can check that list. And then we have great news. As you know, we had an open program specialist position in WESELPA, and Peter Mercado from Etiwanda School District will be joining us on October 15th. I just found that out this afternoon. So that will be wonderful. His background is speech psychologist, very well versed in RTI and a lot of other types of things. He's spoken, I believe, at CASP and NAS, the professional associations, presented on behalf of school psychologists. Very enthusiastic, just has a real passion for serving our students. So I'm really pleased that's going to happen in the school. The other thing, yesterday at our Inland Empire Special Educator Administrator, SEPA Administrators meeting, we had a presentation by a Dr. Kim Clark. Are any of you familiar with him from John Robinson Education? Well, he is the program coordinator for HIV, STD, and teen pregnancy prevention program. And as part of that, ensures that we're compliant with instruction that we have to provide about sex education. So he shared with us a binder of a whole curriculum that has been modified to be used with our special needs population. I'll send information that we received around just for you to take a glance
I was just skipping around. Shall we start with?
I have a short one, and that is that we closed elementary emotionally stirred class at Gibson. There were only, I think, 4 children in there, and those 4 children have been sent to our other classes on elementary classes for students with emotional disturbance. The parents were pleased with the transition, and all of that happened this week. So there is no longer an elementary class for emotionally disturbed children at Gibson. However, we have them at various other sites.
Thank you. Public comments? Okay, all right. So blue is first. Okay, so for the first blue item, is urgent.
That's items not on the agenda, is that right? Right? Not on the agenda? Okay. No, I just had 2 things I wanted to ask about. One was that I know it's time for the Disneyland, I think, tickets. So I just wanted to bring it up and see if it's going to maybe be on the web or something. I don't know how you guys are going to handle that this year. It's something they do every year. The WESELPA usually does it, where it's discount tickets available like in January, February for people to go. But I haven't seen anything announced yet, so I'm not sure if the program's ready or whatever. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention was several organizations are getting together to have a town hall meeting for school board members that are running on October 12th in the evening at 7:30 p.m. And it's for all the 10 school districts in the area, the western part of San Bernardino County. And so, everybody's been invited, and everybody's welcome to come. So thank you. I'm sorry? It'll be at Community Baptist Church. It's during our regular Educate Advocate meeting that we have there.
What city is it in?
Rancho Cucamonga. The date is October 12th at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
19th and Barrel on the corner.
Thank you. That's all.
I'm sorry, I was a little slow.
Oh, okay.
There's a chart, maybe you could, I think I got the first one. Could you repeat the second one, please? You just mentioned.
Oh, the town hall for all school board candidates running, and the 10 school districts around, that are part of the Weston WESELPA. They've all been invited, everybody running, to come out and, present to the public.
That's on 10/12, right?
Yeah, at 7:30 p.m. Sure.
Thank you. And Mr. Holtwood?
Yeah, Atwood. I had a conversation with Susan and Amy a while ago. We got talking about trust and things of this nature. And, and she mentioned this book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, that basically says it's just a whole lot cheaper to trust each other than I can. Well, I had an interesting little experience this morning. Just to illustrate that parents too can be sleazy. Doesn't hurt. Parents too can be sleazy. It doesn't hurt. Anyway, the district had a settlement agreement with him, and they were tricky with the settlement agreement and found a way to try to sleaze him out of something. So we got together for a meeting, and so we ended up telling him, well, okay, comes down to that. If we won't work it out, just put her back in special education in the district. Oh, but she's not a sped kid. Well, she will be, and I don't think you'll be able to get the hearing office to enforce your contract, even if it could be read that way, which I don't think you can. Okay, so we went away for 20 minutes, and then they came back and basically gave her what she needed. Okay, you happy? Yeah, you're happy. And she started nibbling. She says, but the kid needs some more speech. The kid needs some more that. I could see the special ed director peeling up a piece of salami. Anyway, so we got that worked out, and I realized here, the principle that I stated to Susan, I go by is, don't lie to me, don't cheat me, don't hurt my kid. And that works, if you do that. And if you violate those 3 precepts, you're going to have trouble. Don't lie to me, don't cheat me, don't hurt my kid. Well, the way to any special ed director can understand how that works in a parent is just put yourself in the skin of a special ed director that I was dealing with today when the parents started nibbling and putting the sped head on the salami slicer. I could see, I had to tell the parent, look, you want to slice them like this, like salami, they're going to go crazy. They just can't, they can't tolerate that. I'm sure that none of you can tolerate being put on the salami slicer by a parent like that. Well, there's things like that the parents can't tolerate either. So you'll get that kind of trust if you don't lie to us, you don't cheat us, and you don't hurt our kids. And if you do, then there's going to be problems. So I think it's a relatively easy thing to address, and everybody will save money and pain. You know, I won't be involved as much in everything. If everybody can just keep that in mind.
Comments about
Program items 2012-13 SELPA priorities.
And packet, a comprehensive list of the priorities for the various departments for the SELPA this year. That we can take. And so you can read those at your leisure. If you have any questions, you can call me and call me basically, we want to share with you that our whole comprehensive and pretty broad accomplishment.
2012-13 IEP manual.
That was sent out electronically, it's been updated. Also, I will mention that Amy Cuddy and I are doing a training for the CAC coming up at their November meeting. And I'm filling a companion document to go with your IEP training manual that I'll share with you. And basically taking the directions in the IEP manual and the actual ones that I'm going to take the training document. So you can find that.
Great, thank you. SELPA 8602 budget spreadsheets.
Before I start, does anybody have all the envelopes packets in front of them? So it's white, green, blue, and yellow. Let's start with the white one, which is 2009-10 annual RFP, which was certified in July this year. And to compare that with the previous one, which was presented to you on February certification, the difference between this and the one that was presented in February is that the portion increased by 283 in total, and the ADA increased by 19, which is affecting Cucamonga and Mount Baldy. And due to the increase to Mount Baldy, the protection for the small district was adjusted to be decreased. And so also Cucamonga got an increase of like $4. It's not a lot. So any questions on this one? 910 R3. This is the final revision. So next year we won't have this anymore. So this is the final adjustment. Okay, there's no question. Let me proceed to the green one, which is 1011 R1. And compare this with the previous one that was presented on February. The total from the previous one. But the 88 decreased by 22, which is also affecting JP, Cucamonga, and Allen. The negative growth in column E, this spreadsheet, decrease in the program specialist services, which is in column G. So the small school district protection decreased by $13 in Mount Moldy, and all the other districts got adjusted because of that decrease. The reason why the total apportionment increased even though the others decreased is because it may be due to the supplemental to the base when they calculated it, so that would have caused an increase in apportionment.
So that means in federal funding, they decided they were going to supplement the base by pennies per ADA, and as a result, we got a little bit.
So the next one is the blue one, which is certified P2, which is 2011-12. And the difference between this and the previous one that you had received is that the apportionment decreased by $195,730. And the 88 increased in the county operations side by 53 only. And the base column, which is column C, negative growth, which is column E, and program specialist, which is column G, they all increased. And because of this, the small district protection was increased to 225, and all the other districts were also adjusted. Even though all of the others increased and the apportionment decreased, it's because for discussion this morning, this is, the funding is based on 10-11-88, but when they find the amount, it's based on the 11-12-88. So it's like, it doesn't really, that's the reason for the change. Any question? Okay, let's proceed to the yellow one, which is for this year, this is projected P2. The first one was projections in budget time. So this one was based on the projections in April for the P288. So the change was from the budget to this time. And the difference was the apportionment increased by 6,600 and the P288 increased by 1,000. And it's basically all the districts increased their projections into P2. I'm not sure, maybe because school has started already as compared to February, they didn't know what to anticipate by then, so maybe that's the reason why. And also in column C, which is the base and the growth in column E, they both decrease, but the program specialist decreased in column G. So this resulted to multi decreasing by 7,800, and all the other districts got adjusted. So we were discussing also the ETA increase may have resulted to the program specialist increase, because there's a formula in this form. If you increase the ADA, it will automatically increase the program specialist, which is in column G.
This is the current year's always built on projections based on last year, so until we get the first exhibits at P1.
It will be revised by February after the P1 certification. And so any question on this one?
Is there a way in layman's terms to talk about how much the ADA, I get what you're saying, but I'm trying to understand the formula how the ADA is automatic increases for all the columns or just the columns?
For all the columns.
Well, the formula is kind of set. ADA increases or decreases, everything else is adjusted as well.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. I just thought there was a trigger for that. And
Some,
I didn't know it was flat.
the ones at the bottom, they basically remain the same, because this comes from another source of data.
Okay.
Yeah, but top is a calculation that's really triggered by the ATA changes. So the calculation on the top here, the total, is only brought down here to the first column. And basically everything else is the same. So it uses the results, the top one.
So after the year P1 is submitted,
Yeah.
there will be adjustments because that's not accurate picture of where ADA is.
Yeah, they will give us another, their P1.
Is it after the CBEX day? Does that have something to
Yes,
do with
this
it?
is October, right?
Actual, the
Yeah.
first Wednesday of every year in October. Thursday or Wednesday, I can't remember.
Yeah, the certification for P1 is in February. So that's about,
Well, that is a more accurate number, so.
and that's about the time we're gonna do budgets for next year again, 13, 14, so. So that's my update for the AB 602 funding.
We have, that we can provide. I'm sorry. So we have a motion to accept the spreadsheets to the take before Superintendent's Council. So there is public input on item number 3, AB 602 budget spreadsheets. Ms. Mina?
I just had a question. I wanted to know if there was a copy for the public to see of the spreadsheets.
You?
Get off the wire, I'm just on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Item 4, fiscal advisory meeting. Item 19.
To continue with AB 602, we also gave updates for the year end for 11-12, how our programs ended. We have some ending balances which will be returned to the districts, and I presented a calculation of how much each district are going to receive. And once it's approved by the Superintendent's Council, we will hand it over to internal business for them to process the cash transfers. So at least the finance people, they got the amount, so they know what they're getting, and they know what to budget for. And if you get more funding, then you have more to spend. So that's gonna get better if you're going to that rather than going down. So the ending balances are in the programs of expat, the SPS, NPA, and the provider program return. On the mental health, we have 11-12 fiscal year mental health funding that arrived, and we did not really know what to anticipate, but the money came, and I presented it to the group on how much each one is getting, but I realized that because it's based on ADA, not all schools are servicing kids. They don't have kids with IEP, so they end up not spending the money. So we discussed about it on how to make sure that the money is spent with the districts who have more IEP compared to the other districts. So we might change it, even though the funding is based on ADA, we might distribute it based on how many districts has numbers of IEP. So I think that's better than giving it to the districts who don't serve any special ed kids and they don't know what to do with it, because it's so restricted, you cannot spend it on anything. You end up carrying it over every year unused. So that's in the process of the review, and we'll.
So if I can help shed some light on this. As I've been going around district by district and visiting with the superintendent and the fiscal person and becoming apparent that we received X amount of dollars in mental health funding last year, of which we are covering off the top any residentially placed students when it's a residential placement for mental health services. In addition to that, it was determined that the WESELPA would hire a number of clinical counselors who would be providing those ERMS, educationally related mental health services to the districts. So that's another expense that comes off the top. In addition, the districts received an allocation, and some of the districts have said we would prefer to run the mental health program ourselves, which is fine too. What we talked about this morning is we really need to have a work group come together with some fiscal representation and program representation to talk about, in light of the fact that our funding is increasing by an additional $2.8 million this year. However, we no longer can do pre-referral, as you know, as it was known before. So, as you said, the funding is restricted. We want to develop best practice mental health programs. So we just need to come together. And the other piece is, there's no guarantee that this funding is going to continue over time. Last week I attended the state SEPA meetings, and there was discussion about rolling the mental health funding into the base for AB 602. It certainly would give us more flexibility, but we don't ever want that to happen, because then it would not be earmarked to meet the needs of students who have intense mental health issues that need support. So we're dealing with a pot of funding that we don't know if it will continue long term. We want to use it as wisely as we can to meet the needs of students who have mental health needs. But I think at this point, it hit us so quickly, it's mushroomed so quickly for us to provide all the services that we really need to come together. And even at the state SEPA level, we're looking at best practice models next month. I'll bring back information about that, but I think we need to have a group that's going to design, what is our vision going to be like long term? Okay, so if one district is going to provide their services, what do they need to be able to be supported to do that? So we're doing the rest of the SEPA. This morning I even said to Peggy, you need to know what are the needs for the county operated programs, because you send your severely intended to serve students to the county programs. Obviously there's a need for support there too. So we just want to use the money wisely.
Well, I would definitely love to be a part of the work group, because Chino, like Ontario Montclair, we also have our own mental health clinics within our district that money can be used to expand services. But I have some clarifying questions that I would like to discuss in the work group, because as you said, it happened so quickly and mushroomed so fast. While we have earmarked our money to expand some services, there's still a little bit gray area about the students who were already with the WESELPA. Do we want to bring them back? How is that being charged? I get the residential and everything comes off the top, but what is kind of trickling down is the management of the caseload. Because right now I kind of have my feet in both doors. I have my mental health clinic, but I still have students who have been serviced by the WESELPA before the mental health clinic ever came into being, and before this money was given to us. So I think our situation is unique. I know as a district we're trying to work through that, but I would love to brainstorm with the Burning Trust here about some potential ideas. Because my concern, I won't say worry because I try not to do that, but my concern is if this money should stop, then I'm right back to the same conundrum. Because now, if I take on my own caseload of kids and I no longer have this money, we're right back from where we started. And I just would like to have a plan in place that causes the least amount of stress to our families.
Exactly.
That's all. So I love the idea.
I'd also like to share with you, just as an aside, but it's very relevant to what we're talking about. Last week, the Due Process Committee at the SEPA meeting shared a case that I think we all need to be aware of, and that was the outcome of a case when a district decided that residential treatment was not needed for a student. County Mental Health came in and said,
Yes, it is. And, you know, we all thought that the repeal of AB 3632 meant that the decision is an IEP team decision. The court actually ruled that it was still an expanded IEP and that county mental health could come to the table and unilaterally decide that that was so until, the point is that until all those regs are cleaned up, and they have said now that we have to go through the full process to determine if it was the intent of the legislative analyst's office to repeal fully everything under AB 3632 or not, and until then, there could be some limitations. Just interesting.
I have another question. Is this work group going to be the same work group that we talked about forming last meeting as in the notes? Because it was on under program items number 4 towards the end of the minutes. Was it any different or expanded, a different work group?
You're absolutely right. So we already have a list here of who should be on it, and we will add the fiscal people that volunteered this morning and call them.
Is Gina represented?
And we certainly welcome to join us. So we take over the job there.
So, anyway, just to, one more thing. We were talking about 11-12 earlier, so the 12-15 mental health allocation, it increased more, so we're gonna get more money. So, right now, we did not distribute it, we're waiting for the school districts to decide on what to do with it. I presented to them a spreadsheet on how much they were gonna get if they decide to let us give it to them, but they don't wanna stop with the money when other districts could have used it for their own kids, so that's what we're gonna wait for.
Can I clarify? I know that I met with my fiscal people before this meeting, like a month ago. Because we're almost a year behind. Am I correct in my understanding of that? Because we don't just have the first allocation, we also have the second allocation coming. Nevertheless, when I talked to them, only a part of that allocation from year 1 had arrived. So are you saying that the rest of year 1 is here, or are you telling me all of year 1 and all of year 2 are ready to be distributed to districts?
11-12.
Year 1, I know, has been already.
All of 11-12. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I
Year
just
1 and
came
year
in.
2 have been already, okay, year 1 already been given out to the
The
district.
whole thing?
I would think so, according to the books, because I wasn't here then, but I
If I'm
looked.
not mistaken, I believe what came in a week ago was the last 25%
Yes,
of
of
year
year 2.
2.
And that
Yes.
coincides with what I thought.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's the last,
Okay.
the final one.
Okay.
And then we're starting with the year 3. So,
Are we almost 2 years behind?
okay, so that's it for the fiscal update.
Haven't we received the first 50% for 12-13 also?
Yes, we did receive them, yeah. That's why it's on
It's
standby.
received, but this is the piece that hasn't been distributed.
Yes.
Is that- Okay. I was just trying to understand in what year and what was gone and what's still in hold.
So actually, I have the last portion of the 11-12 and the 50% of the 12-13,
Okay,
which is waiting to be distributed
got it.
until it's decided on what to do with it. So meantime, it's on hold somewhere else, so we don't use it.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Any additional questions regarding the fiscal advisory committee meeting?
A lot of what was discussed this morning is on our agenda too, so we'll be getting to it.
I move over for consultant services, Eric Hall Associates.
In your packets, you have a copy of the complete proposal from Eric Hall Associates, I believe. Let me share with you why I asked for that proposal. When I arrived, I noticed that you have lots of different spreadsheets. You have spreadsheets for districts for So that was one thing that I was thinking we would work with a consultant to help us to develop some spreadsheets similar to what I had in the past. Then second to that, our allocation plan is about 25 or 30 pages long. I'm very familiar with it. And it contains a lot of historical information, which we need to have. But my thought was we could have that in a companion document in our allocation plan, the current plan, the current way that we're distributing the funding. It could be set up to flow in the same order as our spreadsheets. The third piece would be that if we have this work done, then Tori carry on from Eric Hall and Associates would come in and do a half-day fiscal workshop that would give an overview of the whole way our funding model is set up and how our funding is distributed. So I contacted Tori Hall from Tori Carry On, Eric Hall and Associates, and she provided her proposal. I talked to the SBCSS purchasing department because there was a lot of concerns today whether or not we met all the criteria to be a hired consultant versus an employee. And so got the go-ahead from them, took it back this morning, and there were a lot of concerns and questions about why would we be doing this. And I acknowledge that when we suggest change, that's always, a scary thought for people. We're also working through a lot of things like looking at our growth and decline calculation. As we look at various things, they said, we need to look at our out-of-home count distribution. We need to look at a lot of things. So the question is, if we were to bring somebody in like this, would we want to do it while that work is being done so that they could manipulate the calculations in that set of spreadsheets and see the difference? Or do you want to wait until the way we're going to calculate all the different funding mechanisms is determined and then have the spreadsheets built? Regardless, I think it's work that would be very beneficial to all of us to have some very user-friendly spreadsheets, to have the allocation model that is more user-friendly, and then have a workshop where our CAC, FAC, PAC, and superintendents could all come together and have a common understanding and some foundational pieces that we could all go back to when there's a question about how is it that the allocation is done, what have the districts asked themselves to do with this money that comes in to flow it out to the district. So I'd love to have your reaction to that.
So I'm curious with my statements. Within existing positions that we have, do we not have, is there not a way to go ahead and create this within with the positions and the staff that we already have with the West End? Is that not something?
I think the benefit to this would be a consultant who is an outsider looking in, getting the big picture and pulling it all together for us. And then working in conjunction with us as she does it, not in isolation, to ensure that what she has captured is what we want. Sure, we could delegate to somebody to put a set of spreadsheets together, but with the comprehensive way I'm talking about, that would be a huge burden for somebody to do. The bigger piece is then understanding the allocation plan and matching the two. And the third bigger piece is actually somebody coming in, providing a workshop for us that is no here. She's just such an expert.
Susan, is there any way we can get copies of the documents that she used in San Diego?
And I just sent those out to fact this morning.
Oh,
So I
because we don't have a point of reference. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
what does that look like?
Right, so I will also do that. We had a 3-page allocation plan, and granted, we had a decentralized SELPA where we didn't have an extra, the other things, but it's still very manageable. And the other piece that we had in there was, Jeanette was talking about your question about does it automatically calculate? But what we had in there
fault. Because I come from a categorical background and I understand it is tedious. You have to pay somebody 12 hours a day. It is a lot of work. But that piece has never really been clear to me. So I like that piece, and along with Dee Dee, I want to see I want to see the example. That would help me. I'm very visual. I apologize.
And then I'll send you the Excel version so you can actually go in and manipulate the data yourself. So you go in and change your ADHD because you everybody across the board page all that.
And in light of what I'm facing next year with a big hit in ADA, I guess I would be interested in seeing that. It may provide districts somewhat with a better way to project exactly. I mean, we can sit here and talk all day about what could happen, but I like there were the numbers, like these are the numbers today, and this is what we're going to lose. So I'm interested.
And Tori, just to give you a little bit of background, she was in a high-level position in the criminal business in San Diego County, LCI. Her husband is an attorney, took a job with the University of Las Vegas, teaching human resource law. And so she moved along with him, and she told the community she was my physical analyst last year. I only had a 0.20 FTE, so I had a 1 day a week physical analyst equivalent. And we were able to build a whole new funding model and all kinds of work, as well as the work that I talked about here with that too. She now is on the plane every day from here to there, working with districts all over the state. So she has that experience of seeing all different kinds of models. And the question, do you guys realize you're doing it this way? Have you thought about that way? And so even when I would have conference calls with her community forward, I would invite
I also have a question regarding the $12,000. Where is that allocated currently with the budget? Where does that come from?
the reason I thought we had some salary savings in the summer because we didn't have any fiscal analysts also. So I'm sure the salary savings and benefits and salary is paid for. So it's not like it's an expense we would pass on to you to reduce the salary.
So there would not be a pass-through to the districts for the $12,000 that would be realized through consciously deposited to the salary.
That was my guess. Because I know Jeanette will get $12,000 benefit. Her life is
That was my first question. And did you find, after you worked with this consultant job, did you find, what was, I realize all compensation is not monetary, but what were some of the effects or some of the benefits? Like, did it take some of the work, did it make it more effective? Did it alleviate some of the work of the fiscal analyst? Just what were some of the other benefits besides being able to understand it?
it streamlined everything. And it did simplify the work for the fiscal people in the districts doing special ed. It built trust in the facts and figures. There was a whole history there about 2 columns on the spreadsheets that we got for many years, and we didn't have county programs, we had regional programs, and somehow people didn't notice for many years that you were sending your student to a program similar to Peggy's. You weren't having the money directly, but instead that happened to the insurance groups, so they were able to build the trust around it, and also we had base funding that ranged from $400 per student to $1,799 per student, and so we wanted to make that more equitable.
So at this point, Pat can table this until the next meeting, is that okay? So we have an opportunity to review the spreadsheets and look at the information with our back person as well. Is that,
I can show you the superintendent for that.
how do we,
Yeah, we would need time, I think, just to look at it and almost sort of absorb the value including the changes. I think the funding, some securities, certainly in that part. But I'm just curious,
forgot my ice cream.
Yeah, I just had, I'm not sure if this is an important point, but if you look on page 2 there, it says consultant services not exceed 12,000. And on C5, this is an excellent.
Oh, you know, I corrected that on the back. Please note that it should be 12,500.
So it's 12,500.
Oh, it says that's the five, but where's the six, just one?
If you look on page 3 on the agenda, line, it says services not exceed 12,000.
Okay.
On the outline proposal, on the second page, it says not exceed 12,500.
I caught it on the back of the bottom.
So then do we have a motion to table the proposal for consultant services? Second. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6, growth, declining growth, meeting update. Jeanette Sanchez.
This morning it was discussed that due to the growth and declining of the districts, you know how we do the calculation in AB 602, and it's applied to the base right away, and all the districts get the funding. We have decided to review the whole thing and to make sure that the districts that are growing and declining get what they really should get. So what I did in preparation for the meetings, I did like a 12-year analysis of the ADA and made a line chart in order to show how it's growing and also based on the funding also for the 12 years. And I showed it to them to start with. And then Jen Crabtree from Internal Business also explained on how it really should be reviewed, because she said she's exposed to all other different ABC models, so she thinks that we should really review what we have, because we have been, the one we have been using have been used for like 12 years, the past 12 years, so it's like it's time to change. So to make sure, because sometimes when the districts decline, they only get the decline amount, but those who increase, they don't get any amount. And then the next year, because it's based on prior year data, everybody is spread out to everybody now for the next year. So the one who got increased growth, who had the growth, are applied to each and every district. So she thinks that it was actually originated with Upland, who lost the charter school. So that's triggered the review. So she thinks that we should review it. And right now we have a committee that is going to be meeting every now and then to discuss this and do more further studies. Whatever comes out with that, we'll share it with you in the future.
We've given you food back.
And the example she gave this morning is we cover all of the time. And so this is directions to the road. Covering the average right, so very high. So we're going to look at some different models and what it is that we may end up deciding to do, especially in light of the fact that charter schools, we get used to 1,000 students, that really impacts your indicator distribution, and then they have to leave, and then all of a sudden, you get that hit to funding. We also have, we'll talk about it later, but in the charter school that has no discretionary if they approve of it.
Additional questions on growth, declining growth, meeting update?
This right here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yes. No, this is just to explain and to understand how what the allocation plan is and how the decline and growth in the districts are affecting the funding. I have my packet from this morning, so I can do a bit today.
Janet's explaining back the CBO.
So she got this from there.
Number 7, special education self-review.
Really, it's quite a few of you that completed their review, and I think that when after the CDE, yeah, you see the happy people.
Friday.
So, Alberto Ariano is coming this Friday to meet with anybody that needs to meet.
You're way ahead. I mean that. Oh, good. Oh, good.
So hopefully we won't have to do that again for 4 years.
Any questions on the special education self-review in the coming meeting? Item number 8, case and non-compliance report.
Yeah, two of the districts were found to have some non-compliant issues, and the word we got from the state is that something is contacting you directly to let you know what you need to do as process. So if you were one of those two districts, you'd be very welcome to the Alberto area.
Any questions on the case and non-compliance report?
What were the issues that the districts were talking about?
There were a couple of performance indicators, suspension or expulsion, graduation rate assessment. And the biggest one was in high school, that transition plans, did they have all the indicators covered? However, the issue was difficulty. They used CalPAD data for some of their calculations, and also one of the indicators on the wall, here was A through G or A through H, of the indicators were 13, 14, or 15. They say, if appropriate, is the student going to have whatever transition services in the district decides the student wants to leave them? But then when they run their case list data and that student doesn't have that 800 code, then it becomes a non-compliant issue, which really isn't fair because the district interpreted it just the way it's written, if appropriate, and then they dinged you because you didn't, and you decided that particular student. Maybe it's a student that's moving down and they're going to do life skills training, or on-the-go skills training or whatever. So that really needs to be resolved in the state.
I know they use CalPAS for their So here are some pretty serious changes that are going to happen, especially when it comes to it's state executive major changes. Because I know we don't have issues, but just the whole way they're